Okay, cool. Here we go. Here we go. Everything should be good. All right. So right now I have backups for backups. So we got double cameras and everything all set up. So we should be okay. I am apologizing for the sound because I don't have anything blocking any of the sound right now. So it's going to sound a little bit echoey. But behind me, well, that's not true. I have a printer on that shelf. You can see that over that shoulder there. I will have that decorated with gaming and magic things or whatever, so you will get to see that shortly. Obviously, new camera angles, mostly because I have a different setup for my boom arm now. That's going to allow me to kind of pivot the camera a bunch of different ways. So that's cool to have access to that. Kind of wish I could show you some other things in here that I will be working on, but I'm going to be doing more as far as like processing singles and whatnot. So I'll probably be doing more content covering collections, because I know that's a thing some people liked recently that we did. So I'll probably be doing more of that here in the next few weeks. Or I say next couple months. Probably won't do much in the next 2 weeks because we have Strixhaven coming. So I'll be doing a lot of stuff covering that. So there'll definitely be some more collection stuff coming. I'm probably going to do a stream, maybe on Twitch, possibly the Tuesday night stream. Will be some kind of unboxing, unpacking of some different stuff I have. Just because there's a lot of people who ask about like my collection and different things. And it's not something I really show off or talk about much. So you'll get to see some of the stuff I kind of have around, since everything's in boxes right now while I'm putting stuff up. Top 10 gamers who have sworn. That is a weird name, but hey. Do I own a shop? No, I formerly owned a shop when I was in Texas. I owned the Game Closet for about 16 years before I moved up to the Pacific Northwest. So that's where all of my store knowledge comes from. And I'm still in touch with a lot of retailers. I'm kind of technically helped start one of the best retailer groups available, even on Facebook. So when it makes things a little tough sometimes, because I'll hear people saying things about the industry or about stuff behind the scenes that I know isn't true. You know, when even people saying that, like, you know, Wizards hasn't done enough to help stores and the pandemic did this, that, that's not necessarily true. I know a lot of retailers right now, a very large number, that have said that 2020, if it wasn't their best year, was one of their top 3 years they've been in business. So there's a lot there, though. I mean, the reason a lot of people close, like, some is the pandemic and related, some are just, that's the way the industry is. You know, a lot of people running businesses, not just game industry businesses, but just running businesses, are stressed. It's hard. It's difficult. A lot of people look highly upon you because you're running a business. But ultimately, when you close it down, it's, for each person, it feels like failure, right? So they don't want to. But they're always looking for an out. And for some people, the pandemic wasn't out. It's a way to say, like, oh, well, that's it, the pandemic, whatever. Kind of the same way you saw people close when they said, well, they're going to raise minimum wage. I'm not going to be able to afford employees. I guess I have to close, right? And people just go, all right, I get why that would make you close, right? But yet you see all these other people that are still open, right? Not saying that's not a legit thing for some people, but not for nearly as many people that state those types of issues. And I know for a fact, because I was in the trenches. Like, there were days where I was just like, oh, this is such a beating. You know, why am I doing this? Whatever. And you make a decision on, are you going to be creative, come up with plans, and keep the doors open or not? You know, that's just the way it is. You feel like starting a Magic card business could be really fun, although COVID is destroying the market currently. Again, Spectral, I don't believe that's true. I know multiple retailers around me that have sold out a product every single release or close to it. Some are upset they can't get enough product because there's not enough in the channel due to shipping problems and stuff with Wizards of the Coast. So I don't think that COVID has hurt Magic at all, in all reality. Matter of fact, I'd even say singles as a whole are shooting up in price. So I don't know. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. Not to attack you. I'm just saying, like, I don't know where that narrative is coming from, other than people just saying things and not having researched it. Because in my experience, that's not what's happening right now. And I have literally 100 different stores I could talk to talk about that. Even now, there's some that are upset they're not going to have enough Strixhaven because Wizards put out the thing saying, like, one of the boosters is going to be slightly delayed or something, but you'll have the other booster. and they're upset about that, right? Not that they're not upset. Like if they weren't going to sell it, they wouldn't be upset. You know what I mean? They're upset because they think they're going to potentially sell out, and it's going to be bothersome for them to be without a product, right? That's just the fact. Well, see, there you go. That's what I'm saying. Like they sold out a Zendikar, right? So that's not a thing. Hey, Matumbo. Titan Spanish says there's an LGS near me who the owner is awful, but they only open after the other event closes down for the night. That's what Titan. The thing that's funny is I used to have people that walk into my store and say like, I don't know why you're not open until like 2 a.m. so we can booster draft and blah blah. And I used to go to this store and they used to do whatever. And I was like, cool, what store is it? And they'd always start out with, well, they're closed now, but, and it's like, well, that's why we do what we do. You know what I mean? Everything up about 20% from stimulus bills signed. It's crazy. It's not even just stimulus, but the stimulus bills have helped. Each time there's been a stimulus, yes, a big chunk of the stores have reported a high increase in sales. The things I don't think people understand right now, though, is that it's collectibles as a whole. When you're talking about, you know, Pokemon, sports cards, comic books, hell, NFTs, you know, whatever, all of it, right? It's all shooting up right now. It's crazy. It's a weird time. Just wish F&M were a thing. Any info from Wizards that's going to be restricted. Spectral, that's just going to be whenever we reach a certain point in vaccinations. I mean, that's really it. They're going to do it on a country by country basis and just look at things as it is. Right now, they're not opening it up. As a matter of fact, they quit even listing events or on the locator, even pointing people to stores because there wasn't a point right now. And I agree with that. I think until enough people are vaccinated, there's no point running the risk or putting retailers in a position where they feel the need to create a risk. You know, because some of them would do it and like, even though they're upset, they would do it just to compete with the other people across town or whatever. So you don't want to put people in that decision to have to make that call to risk people's lives. Theirs or their staffs or their customers, whoever. It doesn't really matter. Now, a lot of places, I know even here in the Northwest, they're talking about opening up vaccines on April 15. So, and originally supposed to be May 1st, I think is what they were talking about. So with all that happening, I think you're going to see, maybe if I were guessing, by midsummer. You know, I mean, that's just me speculating. I don't know that that's a thing. Nobody's told me that's a thing. But if we can get to where a very large percentage of the population is vaccinated by then, at least by the time we get to the fall set, you should be back to playing cards. But yeah, so content stuff. I did some strategy videos lately, and I know several of the regulars really enjoyed them, but I will have to say, like, strategy videos, I partly did it because a bunch of people have asked for them. Even after we had discussions and I told them people don't necessarily view them. And I kind of did it anyway, just as a test, just to see what would happen. Maybe I'm wrong, right? You know, but as it turns out, I wasn't wrong. And the thing with that is the average player is not a competitive player, which is where the bulk of your strategy stuff is going to lie, right? The average player just wants to know cool cards, the latest set, things that go into my commander deck. You know, that's the stuff they're looking for. They're not looking for, you know, these tight game state situations. You know, how do you maneuver these things on the stack? Blah, blah, blah. Like, they're not worried about all that. That's not their jam. And the other problem you have is that a lot of the people that could benefit from it are often who we would call the tryhards, right? The people that are trying to grind all these online events and pre-COVID, you know, the PTQs and all that. And they already think they're good. Anybody who's been to PTQs, Grand Prix, whatever, like, you'll see tons of people griping about how they got luck sacked out and there's no way their deck was going to lose because they were unbeatable or whatever, right? Those people need the advice, but they're the ones that are also not going to go look at it. So your pool of players is actually very low for that kind of content. And one of the things I tell people is go look at like Kenji Gashira, go look at Matt Sperling, go look at, you know, a bunch of these people that are known for being strategic players, that have the pro player connections, that have the history on the Grand Prix, the Pro Tours. They're in the MPL, the Rivals League. Their heavy strategy videos draw less than a lot of their other videos. Most of their other videos, for that matter. So not to say I won't ever do it, but I may do only one every so often, maybe once a month, something like that. It's just not going to be a heavy part of the rotation right now. because what we saw is when I had even a couple of those over 2 weeks, like it cratered the algorithm for me. Like this week, I know the algorithm's going to get a little beat for me, but I also know that because I just had to prep some content because I was moving, right? Like, so that doesn't bother me so much. But when it's stuff you put effort into and you plan and, you know, I'm researching and trying to figure out like the best things to include or whatever, and then you get like 20% as many views as you normally would, it's like, ugh, that's brutal, you know? Let's see what else we got here. The main LGS in town, that's great, but they've been doing wonderful. That's good. I'm glad people are still doing well. College students getting vaccinated now. Get mine in 2 days. Well, man, go for it. I would love to have mine, not even just to get out and do things again, just to not have that concern anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's the main reason I'm after it. Okay, so other stuff. I want to keep doing kind of the deck videos. I think those obviously perform well. I want to keep doing those. But I want to get back to doing some type of product reviews and stuff also. If you look at the very beginning of my channel, I actually reviewed a few things just to help people. You know, like the Acorns app, I think the Fetch Rewards app, a couple other things. And those have actually done pretty well for my channel. Oddly, there's people still click on those and I still get views. And the big part about that is that's evergreen content. And what I mean by that is you have evergreen content and you have timely content, right? Timely content is stuff kind of like the deck play videos. Like these are relevant because it's standard and we're talking about new cards, and maybe, you know, over the next week with Strixhaven coming out, I'll be doing new deck ideas and stuff like that. Maybe finish doing a review of like Strixhaven or whatever, right? But when you get 6 months down the road, nobody wants to see a review of Strixhaven anymore. But if I were to review a new product or something from Ultra Pro or whatever, people will still go look for that down the road whenever they decide to make a purchase of that thing, or they're in a situation where whatever reviewed item is affects them. And anybody who follows my streams and stuff, you'll know that I've talked about it before. One of my highest viewed videos on my channel is actually about a wireless internet adapter for your PC. And I only did that because I was looking for like 3 or 4 days, literally 3 or 4 evenings, where I eventually found one person who had one suggestion on like page 22 of one of these like forums. But yet I kept finding all these other forums and message boards and whatever where people were still having the problem and asking about it. So I was like, cool, this is a big enough thing. Let me do a video. It literally gets 100 views a day. And I did that last February, March, something like that. Right. So even something that I'm not known for, like if people Google search that, I'm one of the videos that comes up now. Right. So that's the reason, that's the important thing for evergreen content, because literally that video is going to be useful until Netgear, for whatever reason, decides to solve that problem. But I don't think they are, because it's been a problem since 2015. So if it's not fixed, it's not going to be fixed, you know, I think is part of the issue. But that means I'm always going to have people looking for it. And that's what you really need to be doing, right? So you almost have to have a mix of both. You need timely content because that's going to actively have people looking for it today, right? That's going to keep your numbers up. That's going to keep people coming to find things. But if you can get a good base of evergreen content, you will always have some videos making money. I'll almost look at it like this way. Like your timely content is an employee you're training, but you know they're going to go away. They're here for a summer job, right? Like they're going to be here for 3 months and then they're gone, and you're going to have to train somebody else for the fall. Like your evergreen content is like that employee you're training, but they're not going to be there every day, but they're going to be a lifer for you. Maybe they're like a 2 or 3 day a week person. They're going to be maybe working in the back room, but they're going to keep making sure you have something going, right? They're going to be the ones that help hold things up. And that's kind of what that content is, right? I can do it today, and then I don't have to touch it again, and it's going to generate. Hell, I have one of my first videos is a junky video. I reviewed one of those like foreign clothing box things or whatever. I think it was Light in the Box is what it's called, right? I did that in 2018. Just a one-off thing because I just wanted to test some things and see how difficult it was to edit a video and all that. And it's terrible. I mean, the lighting's bad, the sound's bad, like the music's too loud. Like there's like 20 things that are wrong with it. but that still gets like 30 or 40, 50 views a day, right? And it just perpetual because there's always somebody going like, oh, this looks like a weird site. Let me find somebody who's actually ordered from it, right? And it still gets views. So, I mean, anything that you have, and honestly, look at, I imagine if you talk to the professor, his videos that are reviewing deck boxes and sleeves and whatever, I almost guarantee he's getting clicks on those daily by the bunches because there's always somebody who's going to be, oh, I want to get this new Ultra Pro box. I want to check out these, these new Dragon Shield art sleeves, or maybe this new box from Ultimate Guard or whatever it is, right? That's going to get people to go and click on his videos. Whereas today he put out a video on are the new, whatever we're calling the new pre-con decks or whatever, right? Are those worth buying? Well, 6 months from now, nobody's even going to be looking for those, right? So the video's got to get all its views in the next 2 weeks, or else it's going to get basically buried by Strixhaven news, and then people are going to be on to the next thing, right? That's kind of how content works. So you have to be able to get a mix of both, and that's what I'm spending some time doing, figuring out what things would be useful to people long term, and then what things would just be good for day-to-day stuff. And most of my stuff is still going to be heavy on the gaming side, but I do think there's still apps and things that I think could help people that I would still like to do reviews for. For instance, I've been doing like a 1-year test on Acorns, and I'm probably going to do an updated review of Acorn and say, okay, here I am 1 year later. What does my account look like? How much money have I saved? Whatever, and be able to tell people like, hey, it does work. I mean, here's my strategy. Here's what I did. So if people want to save money and invest and have a retirement that don't have a lot of money, I basically did that during a period where I had no job and I was starting up my content creation stuff. So product reviews, please. TCC has the great foothold in that area, and his videos are awesome. Even if you don't have a preference for his or other. Oh no, I think his product reviews are great. The funny thing is, the only thing we talked about that I would do differently is the shake test is a meme, effectively, right? He did it a couple times on one of the early ones, and now people expect a shake test all the time. And we've talked about this on stream before, but the shake test really doesn't prove anything. Literally proves nothing because nobody grabs their deck box and does this, right, to try to make stuff fall out. You just don't. But you need to be able to do like a drop test because that's the thing that does happen. Like it falls out of your hand, your backpack. Maybe you're taking stuff out of your car and it slams the concrete. Like, does the deck box get dented, break, crack, whatever? Like, that's what you want to know. Like, the shake test is almost meaningless to most people. But people like to see it, so he just does it. The sad part is some people's products are getting graded or viewed a certain way by the public because of a shake test. So it's kind of a weird thing that a meme has almost become a thing that can affect people's income, which is kind of awkward. I'll tell you the content that I love to see: draft card ratings and the best cards to draft for a given set. Spectral, probably not going to happen. Not on my channel. Not that I hate drafting, but here's the thing. There's other people that just do it better. There's a bunch of people that are known just for drafting, and I am not going to ever get a foothold in that space. I know I'm not going to ever have a foothold in that space. No real reason I should either, because I don't do much drafting or sealed play. The other thing is, I enjoy drafting. I enjoy deck building. I don't enjoy playing the draft games because the draft games are a bunch of cards that I'm never going to use again. So I'm kind of, from my standpoint, I'm largely wasting my time playing with cards that don't generate anything, and I can't make good content out of it because I also know those videos are going to get viewed less than anything else I would do. So it's kind of like a double whammy for me. And I've said before, if people are willing to watch me draft and talk through the draft and my decisions, and then we like speculate on 1 or 2 builds we can make out of the cards we drafted, great. But that would be my video. And I know people be mad. They're like, why don't you ever play games with things? Because like I just don't enjoy the games. Like my account right now has 7 draft tickets and 2 sealed tickets or tokens, whatever they call them, on Arena that are unused for that very reason. So I don't hate it. I think it's good. I think people can learn from it. I think it's positive. I just don't know if I can contribute enough to make it worth it for people. I also think largely that ratings and I don't know, they're more opinions than ratings. If I were to say that, if you see people put out stuff, I would almost argue. And I think I replied to somebody in a YouTube comment about this the other day. When you see a new set or new cards or whatever coming out, and you see people talking about stuff being overpowered or the best thing ever and blah blah blah, go back 6 months later, like bookmark those or whatever, go back 6 months later and see how accurate those people are. Oftentimes, they're going to be 50% or less. I mean, it's not taking a shot at anybody. I mean, even my most recent one, I told people in the video, like, these are just opinions. I'm just like, people like seeing content creators take shots at stuff. We know at that point when I did the video, we'd only seen like 20% of the set, but I was still going to put out some comments. Like, and I knew what it was, but people are going to read into it one way or the other. Let's see. You also have your own unique perspective on TCG products, and we need more viewpoints. I will say this too, though, Shagnessy. There's already a lot of people that do YouTube reviews of products. Like, I'm going to do them because I think I can do them a little differently. Obviously, I have a partnership with Ultra Pro, so I'll probably be doing some things over new stuff they have. So I'll probably include those when they send me things. But there's a lot out there. There's actually a decent amount. So I would say look around. There's actually quite a bit. The new Ultimate Guard product doesn't rotate. Wait, what? Oh, I see what you're saying. The new Ultimate Guard product isn't. Yeah, that's true. But that's again what we're talking about. It's evergreen content, right? Definitely be down for viewing that Acorns video. Yeah, and that's why I want to do it. I think there's a lot of things that people just don't know about. And I have different apps on my phone. Like, I probably need to go through and look. But like I said, I know Acorns is one. I did one over Fetch Rewards, which is the way you just save money just shopping at the grocery store. You get points that you can spend on things. And it's literally just that. Like, I went to Safeway a couple times yesterday. So I have those receipts sitting in another room. When I'm done with this, I will just scan the pictures, then I'll get like, probably like 100 points or whatever. And then you save up and get like gift cards on Amazon or whatever, or movie tickets or whatever. And you're really not spending anything. So it's a way of just like getting a little money back, getting you a little something if you're willing to just take one extra step and take a picture of a receipt, like that sort of thing. But yeah, there's a few things like that though that I want to be able to tell people about. Do you plan to do some Commander gameplay in the future? Would you do Spell Table or MitGo, or if you did a mix? One, I've already done some Commander stuff. Two, I'm on the Commander advisory group, so it's something that's kind of on my mind to do of. The problem is though, like, Commander content doesn't generally do well for me. Like, I'll do Commander just because I'm already maybe playing Commander. So I'll just record it and include it and, maybe do a soft edit or something and put it up. So if people just want it, it's there. But I don't expect it to do huge numbers, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. I think there's, again, a lot of good people that are doing Commander content, and I don't have a problem with that. I just do it because it's fun. As far as what platform, it would be Spell Table only. I have zero desire to play Magic Online. Like, not even a little bit. Here's how bad Magic Online is for me. Like, I was in the, I guess if you want to call it the alpha version of Magic Online in the very beginning. Came out, played with it off and on for probably the first 3 or 4 years, and then didn't touch it again for a long time. Probably another like 5 years went by. I booted it up just to build a deck or two because I was testing for some event, and Arena didn't exist at the time, obviously. So I did that, and then after that, booted it up just to give some cards to somebody who needed a couple things. And then most recently, maybe like 4 months ago, maybe booted it up just to see what was in my collection because I was thinking about selling it, and selling it is just a bear. So I'll just get back around to it later. But yeah, I don't like, I've done commentary for like the Mythic Society where all their events are run with Magic Online, and it's fine. But even just doing commentary for it is way less fun. Like, there's not as much to talk about. It's not as flashy. It's not as snappy. It's like some cards are, I mean, they're harder to read. So like sometimes you just have to like, oh yeah, I remember what that card does, or I remember that artwork, but if I didn't have that history, I don't know how somebody could comfortably do commentary even for MitGo stuff. So like, yeah, Magic Online's just not even remotely an option for me. Have you thought about doing theory crafting videos about the possibility of the upcoming meta? It's like you don't even watch my channel. I literally had that video like 2 days ago on Strixhaven stuff. Like, go watch that. Please do me a favor. Share it with your friends. No, I do that kind of anyway. I mean, some of it's just built into some of the stuff I already do. Every once in a while, like when the new sets come out, I've done literally for like, and this is the thing. Like, I'm probably not going to do it this set because it's just a lot of work. But last couple sets, I literally put out 2 to 3 decks a day and for like 2 weeks until the set came out. It was literally like I usually had a morning and an evening scheduled video, and then if I had time, I did a third one that would come out in the afternoon. So you were just getting like video of like new decks, new strategies, new cards, whatever. And like they get about half as many views as a normal video. So I mean, it's fine. But it's a lot of work to do that. So I'm probably not. I may do like just small chunks, maybe something like Titan did, where it's like, 10 deck ideas. I may do like a couple of chunks of 5 so I can just do them in one sitting type thing. But it's a lot of editing. And I'm not like a master editor. I mean, my stuff looks okay, but it's literally just me doing it. I'm actually hoping to pick up one more partner so that I can use that money to just pay for an editor. I mean, in all reality, that's my next goal. Just so I can get some time back to do some extra planning on the content I'm doing, because I'm doing a lot right now. I'm putting YouTube videos out every day. I've got a podcast I do once a week, which that has its own set of planning and recording and editing. I'm streaming on Facebook during the weekdays, and then I stream 2 to 3 times a week in the evenings on Twitch. So like I stay very busy. So if I could pay an editor to give me like 2 to 3 hours a day back, I'll absolutely take it. I know it probably doesn't make much, if any, money, but just a shout out to your other channel. I love all the videos there, the chickens, etc. Yeah, that channel is like, it's kind of in limbo because it was supposed to be taking a different direction, but like literally nothing worked out. Like I was supposed to be like, I had this whole thing where we're gonna do some camping videos. We're gonna like I was gonna go play disc golf in the snow because I know a bunch of people who live up north who've always played in the snow and I never have. So I was like, oh, this would be cool. I could do a couple of videos of me playing disc golf in the snow and like people can watch me be miserable, right? That's always good for content. And then the snow lasted like 4 days, and we were in the middle of looking for a house and some other stuff was going on, and I just never got to. So like stuff like that I missed out on. But as we're going to be building like an outdoor space here, so I'll probably be putting that on the other channel. Just different things like that will be on there. My idea is that channel will be for everything I do that's basically away from my computer. So when we're doing stuff out and about, I'll include it on the channel. Is the goal there. What about a streamer experience recap? Now that you have been doing it for a year, what worked, what didn't? What you guessed right, and what was a disaster? It's not a bad idea. I just don't think that's the way to structure it to have it be good long-term content. What I would do is I would include that with a lot of the other stuff I do, just being like YouTube strategy stuff or content creation strategy videos, right? So like, here's 5 mistakes you can avoid, that type of video. Or, I'm still want to do one on like how I got to 10,000 subscribers in 1 year, right? I have no doubt once I do that video, it's going to get a lot of views because you watch a lot of videos and they'll tell you like, this is how you get your first 1,000 subscribers. This is how you get your first 500 subscribers. This is how whatever. But rarely do you see the people saying like, okay, I did this in this amount of time, right? And I think that in and of itself is going to be a good video for me to have up. I just haven't had time to record it yet. So some of that stuff will be included in those. But the biggest thing about content creation isn't even your title. It's about how the video is structured and who it speaks to. If I just put out, hey, here's what I did, here's what worked, here's what I thought, here's my planning, right? Then it's really a video just about me. And unless you're already a fan of the channel, nobody cares about PowrDragn, right? Like if you're just a random person strolling around on the internet and you come across a video, you're like, okay, so why do I care about this person doing stuff, right? But if it's, hey, here's mistakes you can avoid. Here's some ideas to make your life easier. Here's a way that maybe you can get a lot more subscribers in the first year, whatever, right? Now people want to click on it. Now people are interested in the narrative. People will follow you for 5 minutes, 10 minutes of a video. But when it's just you and you are not at celebrity level, like you don't have at least 50,000 to 100,000 subscribers, like nobody's going to care. Like they're just not. I mean, think about all the content you watch. The only ones you really watch where people are talking about themselves are because you're already super invested. There's probably not many times you stopped on a video and somebody was full of themselves, and I'd say full of themselves, just talking about themselves, and you stayed for the whole video, right? It's just not a thing that's going to happen. Have I heard of Flesh and Blood? Yes, I have. I've watched a couple people demo it. I've watched some box openings and some box breaks. Eh, it looks okay. You know, I'm this is gonna sound a little snobbish, but I don't know how else to say it, so I'm apologizing. Actually, no, I will say it this way and basically just call myself out and say I'm very picky on things in the game industry because I've literally seen a ton. I've seen a billion, like, I have played more card games than hell. I probably still know the rules to more dead card games than people have ever even learned, truthfully. And I'm not even exaggerating. And so many of them just aren't long term. Like Flesh and Blood, I'm not sure it has legs. One, because the name, like, literally, the name already does it a disservice. Like, I don't even know why. Like, from a branding standpoint, I have zero idea why you would have named your thing Flesh and Blood. Unless it's based on a video game or some other property or something already, which I don't know about. I can't imagine why you would do that. Like, it's just bad from the get go. It's the same way, like, when I see people saying, like, hockey players should make the same amount as, like, basketball players or baseball players. And it's like, they can't because they want to have fighting. As long as you're going to have fighting, you can't get the same endorsements that the other groups get. Like, the Boy Scouts are not going to do cross promotions with you because you're encouraging fighting in your sport, right? It's just a thing. And I feel the same thing with Flesh and Blood, right? Just the name is already a bit of a blocker for it. But I also don't know, like, for me, largely, and I don't think this is completely true, but I think largely the people I have seen heavy promoting it are people that have not had success in other games, or they had success and lost it, and they're looking to be ahead of the curve on the next thing. But I have seen very few people pick it up that were picking up a brand new game, super interested in it, you know, completely unique and independent experience. I'm not seeing that, and that's why I'm a little hesitant to say it has legs. You know, I would not be surprised if in 3 years a bunch of people aren't talking about Flesh and Blood anymore. But I think that's also okay too. Not every game is going to be a 10-year plus game, right? You just have to know that going in and understand that with your budget, right? There are some, like, people forget, like, we have grown up in a world where, like, I was thinking about this, like, if you go back 4 years ago, right, you had crossed a line where, well, 3 years ago, where people had grown up in a world being from birth to adult, right, where Magic, Warhammer, Dungeons and Dragons, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever, like, that has always existed. They have never known a world where that's not around. Like, think about how crazy that is. How many of us that are older and remember learning each of those games or seeing the first products for it or the first video game? And there are people now have grown up and, like, they don't even know that's not a thing, right? Most games aren't going to have that kind of life. You're talking about, like, the pillars of the industry. So if a game comes along and it only lives 5 years, that's fine. That's still a good run for a lot of products. The creator said why I named it that, and when you play the game, you are in the flesh and blood. You know your person playing. That's a I don't know the creator. I haven't even looked up who the creators of it are, but that's such a, like, meh, like, explanation. Like, even when you consider the fact that the flavor of the game, oh, excuse me, it doesn't particularly fit that. All right, realized how long I was talking and my throat was getting dry. Yeah, I need to get a sponsor by a juice company, by the way. Like, those would be my two big goodness, 3 big ones, actually. If I could get a gummy candy company, a juice company, actually, and an eyeglass company. Those are the 3 sponsors or partners I would like to have right now. If you know somebody, have them get at me. But yeah, the whole thing of just like that, like, if I don't know, And here's the thing: I'm not here panning the game. I think the game is fine. I've watched people play it. It makes sense. It's just not something I can justify spending time on. Plus, I don't think I would have a good way to record footage for it comfortably quickly. I think is the other thing. Question kind of related to your Ultra Pro partnership. In the UK, we can't, as far as I'm aware, order direct from them. So if there were a way to get Ultra Pro products, is there a way to support you? Here's the thing: buy Ultra Pro products from your local game store. If you go to shop.ultrapro.com, you can see the item descriptions and the numbers. Just call or message your local game store and tell them to order it for you. Same thing. I don't get paid per like item. I can't talk about the details, but I have a preset agreement with Ultra Pro. So I just encourage people to buy Ultra Pro things. I put Ultra Pro stuff out there. I talk about them. I show their stuff. When there's new things, I put them on camera and encourage people to go buy them. Ultra Pro is actually a huge supporter of local game stores. What people don't know is even during the pandemic, they ran some contests to just give away like full displays loaded with their gear to some game stores or whatever, just to help out during the pandemic. They've been directing people to stores. And that's one of the things we even talk about is like they're not saying like their shop is there and it's available and they get the money directly, and that's awesome. But that's mostly there for people who don't have a game store. Like if you have a local game store, then cool. Just order through there and have them order it. Because you can get Ultra Pro stuff pretty much everywhere. So as long as your store is willing to pick it up, yeah, go for it. You don't actually have to have a direct order to get stuff from Ultra Pro. That's not really a thing. Also, anybody feel free to ask questions. If you want to know about content creation, anything going during the pandemic, any personal questions you want to know about, anything about the channel, anything about podcasting, editing, if you're thinking about doing content creation, now's a great time to ask questions. Matter of fact, I'm just starting to do consultations for content creation. I did one on Wednesday that went very well. Matter of fact, the guy just messaged me earlier today and said like one of the key things we talked about, he put into place and it actually worked perfectly for him and whatever. So that's been very cool. And then today, in about an hour and a half, I have another one, another friend that I'm going to do some consultation for him as well, because he's starting. The first guy had already started streaming. This one's going to be just getting into it for the first time. So I'm going to be having that kind, and it's cool because those are going to be basically different kind conversations. Ordered some stuff from one of mine the other day and just thought there was a way directly to support you. No, that's actually all you got to do, Cassius. If you are buying Ultra Pro things from your local store, it's a win for everybody, right? You're getting a cool thing. Your local store is getting a sale. Ultra Pro still gets a sale. So like everybody wins in that agreement. So there's no reason not to, truthfully. And if you ever want to support me, you can just, in every description on the videos, I have a link to TCGPlayer. So if you're ever ordering cards through there, I get like a 1 to 3% kickback on stuff. And then I also have a link for an Amazon affiliate link. So if you click that, then also anytime you're shopping, I'll get a small kickback from that as well. So you don't have to spend any extra money. And that's an easy way to help me out. Though, if you do want to buy something directly, I do have a set of playmats, both for my podcast and my personal brand here on the channel. And I have some tokens made of me and my co-host on the podcast. Those will be going up for sale probably in about a week. And then I'll have the details for everybody. I'll probably put it in some videos, post it in the Discord. So yeah, that'll be out there. Have a question about content creation and brand creation. Where do you find your branded video assets and things like profile picture logos? Do you hire someone to make them for you? Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Okay, where do I find branded video assets and things like the profile picture logos? Okay, yeah, so those come from I've used a variety of sources. There are companies that do preset assets that you can have them put in your logos, colors, things like that. So like those are options and they're out there. I think I even did a video where I used Fiverr for some stuff. Like you can go there and contract people for one-off jobs for anywhere from I've seen as low as like $10. I don't know what you get for $10, but I mean some people have had success. But usually you're going to be looking at like 20 to 50 bucks up to $200 depending on what you need. And people put together all types of packages for you, whether you want intros, closers, logos, whatever, that's a thing. I also have two artist friends. One, Galen Islandfeld, which, by the way, if you've never seen his stuff, like if you want to see a cool thing, go by Galen's stream on Twitch. Or actually, he has a channel here on YouTube as well. It's Art by Galen, ArtBygalen. He does some beautiful stuff. He has a bunch of like art lessons and a bunch of things. He's got a comic book now. He does some artwork for me. I've known him for years. Hell, I think we're getting close to 2 decades now. Maybe not that long. About 15 years, I think. We've probably known each other. And then I have another artist friend that goes by Unenthused Muse, who she does some artwork for me as well. Matter of fact, she did the logo, the artwork that's going to be on one of the playmats I have available. So the thing I would say the most is if you can't find online, ask people like, hey, do you have an artist you recommend? Because then they'll at least be able to say like, hey, I know how this person works or roughly what a cost could be or whatever. And that could help you out. And for me personally, I do try to occasionally work with new people. I might need like emotes for Twitch or something just to see and, give somebody else a shot. Because I think you want a minimum of 2 creatives you can work with, up to 3, just so you have options. They may have different styles or different things they're good at or whatever. But right now, I have a stable of 2. I probably would like to have a third. The last person I worked with that I tried to include was a woman who was going to do some overlays for me on Twitch, and it was just not a positive experience. So I walked away, and I actually went back to Galen and was just like, hey, can you help me out? I need this, whatever. And he hooked me up in like 2 weeks. I paid him, and, those have been great. Found you after collab with the professor. Love your chill, laid back views. Do you acquire cards primarily to play, collect, or invest, or do you think each aspect interferes with the other? I'm a weird mix. I build decks, so I normally when I'm buying cards or singles, it's usually just for that purpose. Like I do open boxes and whatever because it's good content and whatever. But generally, I'm more concerned with building decks. Like if I open a box, it's all right, I need these 5 cards. What can I trade these others for to finish off a deck or something, right? I'm very purpose oriented as far as that goes. But I do acquire stuff to sell. I mean, I have a few things I'm sitting on, but it's like they're good cards that may be valuable, but I also plan on using them in Commander or something at some point, or maybe I rotate them in and out of a modern deck or whatever it is. So I'll hold on to that stuff, but everything else is up for grab. I'm like the $1 million man. Everybody's got a price. Like you can come to me and there's nothing I won't get rid of for the right price. Matter of fact, one of the things I'm setting up in here, which you can't see yet, but once it's done, I'll probably do like the tour of the new office. But I'm going to be on the other side of this, which y'all won't be able to see. I'm actually going to be setting up a workstation. So when I'm streaming during the day, I will have somebody once or twice a week, probably in here helping sort cards. And, just so I can get them up on Cardsphere and get them sold faster. Because part of my problem right now is I literally have probably the equivalent of 2.5, maybe 3 monster boxes of cards that I've purchased, binders I haven't even taken the cards out of, whatever. And with the market just going up and up, like that's probably like, who knows? Probably some like, I don't even know if it'd be exaggeration to say like 50K plus worth of cards just sitting there. Like literally, and I have a small box, like, one of the small 300 count boxes, or I guess 400 count boxes that had like, I think I showed it on stream on Thursday. I just pulled out a chunk and it was like invocations and, whatever, right? Just, expeditions just sitting in a box, right? I'm not doing anything with them. I know they're there and I know what they are, but I don't have them up on my site where people can see them. So yeah, I'm all about just doing whatever you got to do. If you're in it to make money, then you have to be less attached to the product. It's that whole like drug dealer thing, right? You don't smoke your own product or whatever, right? It's kind of the same thing. You have to decide, right? That's a downside I think that happens to a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in game stores or whatever, is some of them get caught up on, I want to have this item on my shelf because it looks cool. I want to have this in my display case so I look like a real vendor or whatever. But a lot of times I've literally asked retailers that have wanted help with their stuff. I asked them dead face and said, okay, cool. Are you a retailer or are you a museum? Right? Like, doesn't matter if it's here if you're never making money on it. Like, if you're struggling and you're holding on to a thing that's $500, well, that's a couple of bills you could pay. That's on you. So you got to make a decision on what's important to you and what your goals are. For me, it's making good content, growing my channel, having fun with that. Like if I was still a grinder and I was trying to go to all the pro tours and all that, then I would probably be concerned with making sure I had enough cards to build 2 or 3 different decks at one time or whatever. But I'm at the point where I enjoy the competition, but it's not a driving force for me. So having 1 or 2 decks is enough for a season. That's all I really need. And I can enjoy that plenty. But, if I was doing the Grand Prix circuit or whatever, it'd be a different story. I think everybody's got to treat the whole experience and their buying and selling purchases and habits differently depending on where you're at in life and what your goals are. But I don't, and to the next part of your question, though, do I think each aspect interferes with the other? I don't think that's true. I think you can totally be somebody who buys cards to sell them, but then still keep stuff to build cool commander decks. I don't, one of the things I laugh about is like, I don't really care about foils. So my commander deck now has a couple of foils in it because I think I swapped some in live while I was playing a commander game, just being funny because I had them sitting because this is my life. I had high dollar foils just sitting in piles on my computer desk. So I just put them in, while we were playing. But outside of that, no, I don't really care about foils. So I just sometimes I'll end up with stacks of foils that I'm just looking to offload at some point. But in doing so, I might sometimes come across a card that I'm like, oh, I've been thinking about adding this to a deck, or I thought about building this, but I didn't want to spend like the $50 a card. But I got 2 copies in this collection. So like, maybe I do. Like I bought a collection not long ago that had 2 Caverner Souls. And I think I'd sold most of mine and I was down to 1 or 2. And I was like, there's a couple of decks that use these. Maybe I should get back to a set of 4 in case I want them at some point. Well, now I have like a play set again. So, moments like that help. But I don't think it stopped me from selling cards. I think, if anything, just my time spent during COVID building all this content has actually stopped me from I guess acquiring anything else and getting it organized so I could sell it. Though they kind of sort of want to ask a question, and this is completely unrelated to my content at all. But just out of curiosity, what commercial what commercial are you okay with popping up when you watch YouTube videos? Because I feel like the one that gets me right now is the one with like the dude singing Scoop, there it is. Like, that's the commercial for me. Like, that comes on, I won't ever skip through that one. I will watch it every single time. Like, such a dumb commercial, but I will watch it every single time, 10 times a day if it comes up. But there's a bunch of others. I'm just like, ugh, why are they showing me this again? I'm never going to buy this thing. Though I have to admit, they kind of got me. There's some stuff that, like, you see it for the 10th time, the 12th time, and it starts to, like, get to you, and you're like, maybe I should check that out. So I just think that stuff's kind of funny. But yeah, like I said, keep the questions coming. This has been pretty good. So anything you want to know about content creation, buying cards, industry, game industry stuff, if you have any questions about that, running the store, event stuff, post-COVID action, I think there's a lot of topics to talk about currently with the way the world's kind of gone. But one of the things actually, and some of you are new to my content, you probably haven't heard this, but one of the things that was kind of weird was in the very beginning. Yeah, exactly. See, Sean gets it, sprinkles. The thing that was tough is right around January, I started making plans for the channel in a way that I was going to be able to reach out. Hey, Paul. Moving, I am sore as hell. I feel like I've lifted weights for 12 hours. I was going to do a thing and kind of make it largely about the game industry. A lot, it'd still be Magic focused and stuff, but like, let people see behind the scenes of like, what are different store owners going through? Talk about, how people get started. Matter of fact, my channel still has some videos on if you're thinking about starting your own business or particularly a game store, like, here are some things you should think about, right? And I just did those very casual, like strolling through the park, videotaping myself talking, and I'd even made new fancy business cards. I got new lavalier mics. I had scheduled some stuff with people running conventions so I could do coverage from there. I had talked to retailers I was going to visit while I was out traveling. And then COVID happened, and all that time, all that money, everything was just dead. So I had to do a big pivot. And I kind of want to get back to including some of that. Admittedly, it probably won't happen until the back quarter of this year. But I would like to get back to that. I'm just curious how interested people would be in that type of content. Like, do you want to see people talk about ups and down struggles of their entrepreneurship, of their game stores, uh, just things going on behind the scenes in the industry? I'm not really sure if that's a thing for people. Let's see. Any ideas on how to offload bulk? Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like, bulk isn't even bulk anymore. Like, bulk really comes down to how much time can you dedicate with it to really get the most out of it. Because there's a lot of random magic stuff that's worth stuff right now. The thing is, though, I would just reach out to different big vendors. Where you're talking about Star City, Card Kingdom, Channel Fireball, whatever. A lot of times those people buy. Now, granted, you're not going to get a lot. You're going to get like $3 to $5, maybe if you're lucky. 5 would be on the high end, per 1,000. So if you have a 5,000 count box, 6,000 count box, like you're probably only going to get like 15 to $18, maybe $20, right, per box. But that's a way you can do it. The other is also figure out what you need to get out of it. If you've already got, like, I've gotten my money. Matter of fact, I just got rid of some bulk. It was probably about, if I were just guessing, it was probably in the ballpark of 25 to 30K worth of cards. And I had already gotten everything I needed out of it. Like, so many cards, literally, it added to the pile of stuff that was unsorted. And I made a deal with somebody and I sold it for $150. Like, just cool. If you're willing to come pick it up, we can make a deal. They were happy to get it. They're going to go through the bulk and they'll probably still make some money, but like, I don't have to mess with it. It was out of my house and I didn't have to move the boxes. The time before that, I think I had about 40,000 cards. And I believe we agreed on $120 cash and one of the rare Super Series Elvish champions that was like $100, value. And we did that for it, right? So there's always people looking for bulk. So that's a thing. And then the other is I also donate a lot of cards, so you can find your local like boys club, YMCA. A lot of the high schools and junior highs are still doing stuff to like build decks for people and have beginner programs, after school programs. So you can just donate stuff that way. And you can get a small donation write off because you are donating it to a charity. So that's something else to consider. It's just a matter of how much time you want to put into it, really. What would you say is your favorite color in MTG? Green? I mean, you see my logo. I think that'd be good content, but not too much of that on YouTube. Yeah, there's really not a lot of that on YouTube. I think a lot of it, again, it's very. You'd have to find the right audience, and I'd have to do it in the right tone. So again, I'm not just making it all about the person I'm interviewing, but about, hey, what are the lessons you could take away from what this person is doing? And I think that could be really fun, especially for me. It would be partially like coming out of COVID, right? Like, like what was your life pre-COVID? What was your COVID adventure effectively? And then like, what's post-COVID look like? I think that could be a good narrative for people to follow too. Definitely be interested in game store or in the card store live videos. Great. On an unrelated note, do you think a Boros booster deck could be a big part of the meta, or Boros boost deck? Again, this is the type of thing that I would just strictly be speculating. I don't know any more than you know, right? We still haven't seen the whole Strixhaven set yet, and haven't seen what, like, the biggest problem. And here's what I try to tell people: like, if you look at the metagame, there are things that actually, a good example is the Teamer Adventure deck, right? Like, that deck had been around since the beginning of Eldraine, but people weren't really playing it until Kavartek, I think it was, did well with it at one of the big events with it, months later, right? So it wasn't even like, if somebody had said, like, do you think this is going to be a deck? A bunch of people would have said no. But now it's just like, oh, once somebody figured it out, it was just a staple of the format, right? Or you have situations where like cycling was a thing for like 2 weeks, then it just went away almost entirely. And then sometime over the last month, it started becoming a major player again. So I think it's hard to predict the metagame. So just to say like outright, that's a lot to ask of somebody to give you a true opinion. I think if you have a specific deck or card or whatever, like I think it's easier to talk about that. It just you can say like in a bubble, we can talk about that outside of other influences and just say like, does this even seem reasonable? Then like, sure, we could talk about that a lot easier, I think. I have about 23K count bulk boxes piles around the house. That's actually not that bad, MTG Unpacked. Like I normally let them stack up to where I have 9 to 12 of the big 5-row monster boxes usually when I unload them. But like I said, the last time wasn't that bad because I got rid of the equivalent of like 5 or 6 of them. So that was kind of okay. But yeah, the time before that, it was like 9 boxes. Like just because, you know, you go buy collections, people just give you everything. So you just take everything. Hey, Gregory, how's it going? Emma says, I love the content as well. I'm newish to Magic. I play a lot in high school, but I'm a returning player. Your deck ideas are lifesavers. Well, I'm glad. I mean, because the thing is, it's tough, right? When you're doing that type of content. And actually, here's the question: like, how important is it for you as a viewer to? Now, again, not to come back to the deck you want. Like, to take that out of the equation. Just as a channel, how much do you enjoy having strictly new decks versus revisiting decks that have been done already for the season? And the reason I ask is like this season's kind of a weird one because it was like a week or two shorter than normal as we're going into Strixhaven. But I didn't have a stretch where I think I only went back and revisited like 3 decks maybe this season. And I'll do one more, I think tomorrow maybe, and possibly one the next day. And then I might be into Strixhaven stuff, right? So this would be a season where I really didn't revisit decks, but some people like to see updates or not, or whatever. And it's always hard trying to like gauge where the importance of that's going to be. Because as a creator, sometimes it's easy just to say, well, I know people like seeing more, I don't know, mono black decks or angel decks. So I can just pick that to make the one I do an update of, and I know it's going to get views just because people are searching for that thing. But I don't know how important that is to people or how people feel about it. Or it should just be a new thing. Because here's the other thing too. It's hard to come up with decks that are always like, as much as people say they want to see a new deck and want to see people try new cards and whatever, they also don't view those as much, right? Because there's no good way to search for it. Like I put up a Titan's Nest deck, which was different than what a lot of people are playing, but people aren't searching for Titan's Nest decks, right? So what do you, and I was like, okay, it's a Sultai deck or whatever, so I can use that in the title and get people to come look at it or whatever, and it did okay. But it's that type of stuff that makes it a little bit difficult. And like this set, as we've already seen, probably has about 10 cards that I can include to build around or whatever without a whole lot of effort, I'm sure. I think any deck is good as long as it's entertaining. That is the thing, right? Especially as a content creator, you can get caught up not even realizing if you're being entertaining or not, right? Because there's some days like today, I'm not gonna lie, I am sore from like neck, back, calves, feet. Like, I mean, like, I probably went up and down stairs about 30 times yesterday, moving stuff and boxes. And, and I still got a lot of work to do. But I was going to come over here and still talk to you. So I have no idea if I'm like in a mood where like it's showing physically and I'm slumping or whatever, or, like I have no idea. So I think that can be hard for a creator sometimes. And like, okay, do people just want to see me talk about deck XYZ for, the next day? Or like, does somebody want a series of videos on the same deck type or colors? And I've tried different things. Like I think I did like 3 different Gruul decks on back-to-back days. I did some I think I did like a week of mutate decks or something, right? So there was a bunch of different things like that. And some performed better than others. I don't know if the theme really drew people particularly, but it was a neat idea to try. Drift Ronin. Oh, that's who it is. Well, thank you. Actually playing the Titans Nest deck today. Well, that's awesome. Warren says, which mid-range color do you like better, Jund or Abzan? I don't think it's about which color. It's like, what are the decks doing? What cards are we talking about that are in each? I think that's a big difference. Like, I don't think it's just I know a lot of people try to get like, I don't know, structure their conversations around like this combo or this color or this thing is like good, bad, whatever. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case, except for the times you're in a standard where like, the green cards are just subpar or the red creatures just aren't playable or whatever. When those types of things happen and you're having to wait for another set or two, that might be true. But I think really, I mean, I've built both Jun and Abzan lists, so I would just say whichever you think you are going to have more fun with, whichever one you like more of the odd cards from. I think that's a thing to do. Whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you're really after. I pre-ordered the Azorius Control Challenger deck. I think I'm going to tweak it a bit and go to F&M. I was told that is the best option when wanting to be somewhat competitive. I do think that's pretty fair, Emma. I don't think that's bad. I think if you know you would be comfortable playing one of the 4 decks that are released, I do recommend buying one of those and going to play with it. The reason, and I think your idea is good, add 6 to 10 cards to it and fix it up. But it's the cheapest way you're going to get a full 60 card deck ready to go on paper. And yes, there's been like Planeswalker decks and dual decks and all this other stuff, but like that's the one product where it's like they are at least based on competitive decks. So if you pick that up, you'll at least be getting the bones, so to speak, more than the bones. You'll be getting the bones and like the sinew and the joints and whatever. And then you just got to put a little flesh around it or whatever, right? That's such a gory. And let's just strike that from the record that I even said that. That's a like stream of consciousness that I should have cut off. But what I'm saying in all seriousness is it's one of the few products that are built specifically to head people down that road. Now you do know that like half the deck is going to be non-standard legal in like 6 months or whatever, but still get your use out of it for 6 months. You can also add cards to it that are going to be good beyond that point. So you even then maybe, I don't know, 8 or 10 cards rotate out that you're not going to be able to use anymore at that point. That's fine. You just take stuff out of the new sets and fill them in where you can. But yeah, I think that's totally a good option especially if you're newer or you're returning and you just don't know enough about the format or whatever yet. That's an easy way to get a jump start on a deck for sure. How much editing do you typically do with pre-recorded deck tech plus gameplay videos? Depends on the videos. There are a lot that are just like, you saw me play the 5 games or 6 games and I just, there's not a lot of editing to be done. I just clean up some sound stuff. I put in my intro, outro, put in my overlays, put the transitions in. And those are the good days. Those goes really fast, right? I played 6 games in a row. All the games are interesting, win or lose. Just put them in the video, right? Then you have other days where it's like, maybe I played against mono red 3 times over my first like 7 games, right? So it only leaves me 4 games, and then those 4 were kind of fast. So like I only have like 20 minutes worth of footage, and it's like, okay, well let me go back and let me play a couple more games, see if I can get some extra deck. Because part of it, the reason I do best of 1 to start with is that I want people to at least be able to see, because I'm playing new decks all the time, or most of the time. So I want people to be able to see the deck face off against something different a bunch of times, right? As opposed to just, well, you watch me play 2 games or 1 match against one deck for like 40 minutes, right? That's just not as good to showcase a deck and show cool things. So in that regard, I want to have usually 4 to 7 games that are just interesting. Win or lose, just something interesting. But I do try to include or edit. Sometimes I'll chop and edit stuff out of order. So I'll like open and close maybe with the win, and there may still be losses in there, but it's just like the flow of the video matters to me too. So I'll take time as I'm putting it together and go like, this will probably be better here. Or maybe like this game has a crazy finish. So it's like, okay, if it's short, maybe I want that in the beginning. So I'm carrying people through and going, oh, this is fun. And like, oh, that finish was amazing. And then they'll watch more of the video. Or it's like, okay, these are kind of quick. And then there's this one long game that's an epic back and forth. I kind of want to reward people for getting through the end of the video and seeing like this cool thing, right? Especially because I put the timeline in so you can see that like the last game is going to be like 14 minutes. Like, oh man, I wonder what happened there, right? So I try to think about the narrative of the video while I'm editing it. So, I mean, I think that's something else people don't consider. It's like, yes, it's cool to see the games, but it's also what's the viewer's flow getting through that video. And I think that should apply to whatever content you do, right? Because even if I do a 30-minute video, the average viewer is still only going to watch somewhere between 11 and 13 minutes on most of my videos, right? So to take them further than that, I have to think about the structure of the video and like where the high points are going to be. And, if they skip to the next video, do they even see? So sometimes I'll even reference like, oh man, that finish was just crazy on that last game or whatever, right? So if they skip to the next one, they'd be like, oh wait, what? I missed something. Let me go back and So you have to think about all that stuff when you're putting it together. And I try to do that while I'm recording, so that can be used in the actual editing content itself. So there's a lot I've figured out over the year that I think could actually like really make that a bit better. But I think too often what hurts a lot of people, especially, and this isn't just Magic, I think this is in the game space as a whole. People get on and want to just like, okay, I'm going to play through the game and, you're going to watch me this and I'm going to talk about my dog or whatever while I'm playing. And then boom, here's my video. And then they're like, man, I don't understand. I've been doing this for a year and I only have like 100 subscribers. What did I do wrong? And it's like, you didn't create a story and a narrative and whatever out of your content. And I'm not going to say every one of my videos, that sometimes it's just hard to do and it's just not possible, right? But there's other times it's like you get done and you just feel like, oh man, like I watched this kind of up and down and like you struggled and you had like that close finish where you lost and like then you got these two big wins and like, and people kind of go on that journey with you and it creates a narrative for the viewer. Even if the viewer doesn't understand that narrative's there, it's an understanding of just like people and emotion and viewing habits that when they get done, they feel positive enough that they do want to subscribe and they want to watch your next video. Let's see what else we got here. What's currently your favorite deck to play? Sadly, Emma, I don't have a favorite right now. I've been playing so many different things this season. I don't think I've played a single deck. That's not true. I maybe played like the Gruul food I messed around with for a couple days, and then like the clerics deck because I like tried to do an updated version with some different cards, so I put extra time into that. But most of them I don't play with more than the day that I actually do the recording with. A lot of them, the deck list gets deleted 2 weeks later, without me playing any more games. So and without me having like an FNM or like a Saturday tournament to go to regularly, I'm not really spending the time to like just get reps in with one deck and really enjoy it. So whenever there's a non-pandemic situation, I'll probably have a better answer to that. But currently, I just play a lot of different things right now. Do you do Magic podcast or discussions on other people's channels still? I saw you did. Aaron, you don't check the description links, do you? I've even mentioned my podcast on my content. But yes, it's called Color of Magic. You can get it at colorofmagic.podbean.com or on anywhere you download things, except for SoundCloud. I don't think we're on. But everywhere else, yeah, if you go check the Google Store, you go check iTunes, whatever, like, yeah, you can download it. We have 77 episodes. The last one just came out on Thursday. We release them weekly. And they are, we basically talk about different social issues or large commentary around gaming, more than just like, hey, here's this product, blah, blah, blah. Like, we talk a lot about like things going on, with racially sensitive stuff, maybe on Twitch. We talked about when, Wizards removed some creators from their creator program. We talked about, a couple months ago, talked about the issues on YouTube when people weren't getting paid, things like that. So we cover a lot of stuff around gaming. And it's a different type of show, but, we get about a couple thousand downloads a month. So it's not like it's gangbusters, but it's better than a lot of people. And people seem to enjoy it. So yeah, check it out. Link should be in the description of this video, but if it's not, it'll be in our regular deck play videos. You can get it there as well. Let's see. Oh, you saw. Also saw the. I did talk to the professor recently. Actually, we're talking about doing some more content, maybe in a month or two. So we have a couple of ideas we want to do there. Professor is great too. You two are my PBS of MTG. I don't know if that a PBS of MTG. All right, I can accept that. That's a compliment. I mean, I'm good with that. Let's see, makes sense. I usually leave out boring games, Mana Flood, Screw, typically, and games with obnoxious misplays. Here's the thing, MTG Unpacked. when it comes to my content, I will take out stuff that's just like flood or whatever, but I also leave some of them in if like even if I lose, where it's like I start to overcome it or I'm putting together a path, because part of what I do is talking through my plays and I'm trying to teach people through different game situations or whatever, right? So if there's still something to be taken away, like, okay, look, we are stuck on lands, but I can do this, this, and this. So when I do get land number 4, this can happen. And then maybe when we get land 5, this can happen, right? And as they start seeing it come together, and even though it comes up short, it's like, okay, you can still see where that strategy was headed, right? And that's something people can learn from. So if those opportunities happen, I still leave them in, even though they result in a loss. So I think that's totally fine. The other thing is when I misplay, I just use it as a chance to show personality, make fun of myself, whatever it is. And the other thing too is to show people you're human, because the reality is nobody plays perfectly, just period. Hands down, nobody does. Matter of fact, I have a fun, well, all right, I have y'all closed capture here. Short version of the story is basically I was at a Grand Prix and I heard some people complaining about their opponent getting lucky or whatever. So I went around and I actually asked a bunch of the pros that I knew how many 3-game sets of Magic they believe they played perfectly. The answers were 0 to 2 from just about all of them. And most of them said probably not even 2. Most of them said 0 or 1. Matter of fact, I think it was Saito who actually had come back. He said 1, and then he found me later, which is funny because I didn't know Saito before this, right? He found me later to come tap me on the shoulder and be like, no, I think 0. And then he left, right? So even the greatest players in the world still thought about it and like, yeah, I probably haven't played any perfect games or whatever, right? So to include misplays, I think reminds players that, hey, it's okay to not play perfectly. Like you can still do well, make mythic, finish high in a cash tournament, do all the stuff, and still be a person who occasionally makes errors because it's going to happen. So I don't think like when you misplay, I don't think you should take it out. Just do what I do sometimes and talk about, oh man, I think that was wrong because if I'd have done this and this gives me a better upside. I probably should have waited like another 2 or 3 seconds and thought about that because now I could be in trouble if the opponent has XYZ or whatever, right? So you can turn your misplay into a narrative. So now you're taking a bad moment in your video and turning it into a thing that somebody can actually benefit from. So it's okay to take them out. I'm not saying never do it, but think about why you're doing it and is there something to take away from that. And again, that's something I try to include while I'm recording so I don't have to worry about it in editing. So that context has already been there and been spoken if I decide to include it later. Let's see. Usually best games at beginning, middle, and end, or good games despite loss. Yeah, that's it. You always want good games in your content. You got that way with Hearthstone? Yeah, I feel it. Sean apparently listens to my podcast. He says he likes it. Well, thank you. The one thing I will say about my podcast is listen to it from episode 1 because there are a lot of things we reference and some interviews we did early on that we reference that the rest of the stuff will have more context and make more sense if you heard from the beginning. But I will say, like, our quality starts getting a lot better after like episode 20 or so because my co-host just had like bad internet connection and like before he got moved and got a new studio and whatever, like it was just a mess. But we made it work, but it gets a lot better as the show goes on. Still a good game, even if you lose. Absolutely. Paul says, how long did it take for you to be able to narrate while playing? Was it a lot of hours, months, or weeks? It literally took me 15 minutes. Like, not even exactly. Partly, though, because I've done so much of that normally, right? Because everything from when I was running my store, I would have to do demos for people, right? Of showing games, talking about stuff, explaining a product while they're thinking about making a purchase. I've worked big conventions for people, helping show off things, talk about stuff, answering questions on the fly. I've run a bunch of D&D games that kind of includes into that type of space. I've done stuff where I've had to do a lot of presentations. And you do a lot of like pointing, talking, responding to stuff, reading the room. So a lot of that just comes normal for me. So it wasn't like a thing I really had to do. The biggest problem, really, I think for a lot of people is trying to, like, one, have the thought in your head. then 2, convey the thought you're having in a way that's easy to digest and makes sense to the viewer, while also 3, trying to pay attention to your game and make the action, right? Those are 3 different things you're trying to process all at the same time. And like that can be a little bit confusing. There's been times I've clicked the wrong option on Arena, even though I knew what I was trying to do, but like I was thinking and then trying to explain a thing, and then the rope was going down, and I'm just like, whatever. And that happens, right? But you just learn to work through it as part of your creation process, really. But I would say it's probably the hardest part. But the thing is, I would also say if you're thinking about doing content, it doesn't have to be done the way that I do it, right? There are a lot of people that make content a bunch of different ways, right? There's some people that play their games and then they record their voiceover afterwards, right? So they narrate after they've played. Like there's some people that do it live. There's some people that just kind of talk through in a color commentary sense more than the stream of consciousness thing that I do, right? Like it's a little different. You just got to figure out what's comfortable for you and kind of figure out your lane and go with it. I don't think any of them are wrong. For me personally, as a viewer, I think there's some that are better than others, but I also know there's people that are going to watch my content and not enjoy it because of the way I do it. So it's just figure out what works for you and what's comfortable. And sometimes that can take a few months. I think that's the other thing. If anything, don't be discouraged because, you didn't get a ton of subscribers right off the bat. Like sometimes that's going to take 4, 5, 6, 9 months before that really takes hold. And some of that is also due to hidden things in YouTube, right? As far as YouTube and the algorithm getting enough information on you to even know who to recommend your videos to, right? That takes time in and of itself. Who else? What do we got here? What set did you start playing in? I bought my first, I think I've told this story before a bunch of times, but I bought my first starter deck when I walked in, it was in a shopping mall and they had it sitting on the counter, and there was an unlimited starter and a revised starter. And I remember asking the guy like what the difference was, because they look the same. One just says unlimited edition, one says revised edition. And the guy tells me, well, the revised set has cards from this other set called Antiquities and Arabian Nights and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, well, then obviously I want that one. And then I took it home. And on the way home, I'm reading the rule book and realized you can't play with one deck. And then didn't touch it for a few weeks until I had a friend who happened to have a brother who gave him a Magic deck because they were playing together, and then we played. But yeah, so sometime after Arabian Night, well after Revised, sometime around then. So I'll say Revised was out because I bought that starter, but I don't remember what booster particularly was out at that time. Whatever that timeline works up to. You rock. I like your content. Well, I appreciate the enthusiasm because, man, it is hard sometimes putting together a bunch of content every day and putting in sometimes 10 or 11 hours, 12 hours, not knowing if people even care, right? Like you see a couple of views, you maybe get like 2 comments and you get like 20 likes and you're like, wow, okay, well, oh, sorry about that. Like, 2,000 people watched the video, but I don't know if this means people loved it or hated it, right? Like, so it's kind of weird, but yeah, it's cool anytime I get to see that. And it's interesting for me because in the before times, all the people who knew me were from a physical space, right? I used to own a business. I used to run events. I used to work conventions for people. I ran games. I did all this. I did after school programs, right? So I knew a lot of people, but they were all people I interacted with on some level. Since the pandemic, a bunch of people, especially a bunch of people who started discovering me and joined the channel, didn't come on until after June last year, right? So there's a bunch of people who know me and know my content that I've never met before. I don't know their actual opinions or views or anything, right? So it's a very different space. That's why the Discord channel has been really fun, because having all those people in there, it's like we've kind of met each other, talked about different things or whatever, and that's actually done a lot to help my content. I laugh because when I got my haircut recently, people are like, oh my God, why'd you guys, like, what people didn't realize is most of you came on after the point where I started the hair growth experiment, right? So there's a bunch of people who thought I normally naturally kept a lot of hair, but it's like, no, this is actually closer to my normal look. Like, it was just funny that, I didn't even realize that till I saw the responses and went, oh, these are people that don't know because they didn't know me before. So it's like it's super different now. It's kind of funny. Paul Grant says, I did an hour and a half Twitch stream and didn't have a single viewer. Patience is definitely a virtue. Yeah, here's the trick, Paul. I will say this. Like, one of the things to remember is that some huge number, something like, if you get to 10 to 12 viewers regularly, average on Twitch, you're already in the upper like 90 percentile or something. Like, the average person who streams will never get more than 3 viewers. Like, and that's just real talk. Like, a lot of people don't know that, right? And if you go back on my channel from about, I want to say it was maybe around February or January, late January, I did a video talking about should new people even actually be on Twitch. And I don't believe new people should be on Twitch as their sole point of streaming. Mostly because Twitch has something like I believe the last report I saw at the end of last year was Twitch had 90% of all streamed content from content creators between the 3 big platforms. When you're talking about Twitch, Facebook Gaming, and YouTube Live, right? But they only had 66% of the actual viewed hours. So what that means is if you're on Facebook Gaming and on YouTube Live, you stand to have as much as 3 to 4 times as many potential viewers per hour that you stream, just because of the number of people streaming and the number of people viewing, right? It's a weird thing, but that's just the way the math works out. Not saying that you can't be on Twitch, but I think Twitch, because Twitch lacks discoverability, which is their biggest fault right now, and has been for probably about 5 years now. Like what I was talking about last Thursday is like, if I do a stream and I'm done, nobody will ever see that stream, even though it's sitting in my VODs for a month, right? Nobody's going to go back and see that unless they're already one of my followers or they go there because it's linked specifically from somewhere else, right? Nobody can go search. I mean, let's say I was doing like a Strixhaven review, right? Nobody can go search Strixhaven card review and find my thing, but they can do that on Facebook Gaming. They can do that on YouTube Live, right? So those are things I would say, like, you probably need both or all 3 or whatever, some combination to send people from one to the other. But I think just getting a camera, sitting down to play your games isn't the way to grow just on Twitch. And it's one of the reasons I started doing these consultations with people is even so far, the one I just did on Wednesday, and then I've already gotten some questions from the one I'm going to do here in about another 45 minutes, is there's so many things that I think people just don't know that they don't know that really help a lot. And I tell people all the time, like, I spend 2 to 3 hours a week that I have dedicated, sometimes more if I actually get free time, but 2 to 3 minimum that I dedicate just to watching content from people even outside of the game space. Mostly so I see how people are doing stuff differently, what subject matter people are trying or talking about that looks interesting, camera angles, like whatever. And I'm slowly learning things from all the different sources. And a lot of people just don't know their options because they look at other gamers and just go like, oh, well, they do this, so I'm going to do that. Not realizing 2 problems. 1, if you're doing it exactly like they're doing it, why should somebody come watch you? And 2, well, if everybody's doing it and everybody's copying the same thing, well, now you're all copying an old business model effectively, right? So at what point do you try to innovate and do something different? And that was the concern with my channel and the way I speak about things and the content I was going to put up and, how I was going to show it. And, even just making sure I have those moments, like some of you may not even realize, one of the reasons I do my content the way I do is I try most of the time to open and close with a full screen shot of me. So we're engaging on a one-on-one conversation, and I'm normalizing a full conversation with a black face, not blackface, but a black person's face, like in the game space, and particularly in Magic, because there's not a lot of black content creators. So that's something I thought about, that like, hey, nobody else does their content this way in Magic. So I particularly want to make sure I do this and change the way people speak in videos and talk to people. And that's something I picked up from somebody else, that I brought into the game space, but it makes my content look different. And I've had a bunch of people comment on like, oh man, like your stuff looks so much better and so different, or I like the way the flow of this or whatever. And I'm not doing anything great. Again, I am not a master editor. Like, I am piecemealing things and doing the best I can with the skills I have. So it's not anything other people can't do. It's just I'm doing stuff differently. So when they've watched the 5th, 6th, 7th deck plate video and then they come across my channel, it's just like, oh, this is way different, you know? Let's see what else we got. Your set was Kamigawa, and you still remember Umezawa's Jitte. Yeah, Jitte was a crazy card. Yep, that card has won and lost many, many games for people. That's what I don't like about Twitch. Discoverability on YouTube is huge. Yeah, pretty much every other platform, I would say, has better discoverability than Twitch. Other issue, I do have other issues with Twitch, though, as far as like their responsiveness is not very good. I think there's too much anonymity on Twitch, which leads to some other issues. There's a few different things. My problem right now, though, is they've just been slow to respond to a lot of things. They're behind the curve on a lot of stuff, especially when you're talking about, for me, DMCA thing's not a big deal. I don't play actual music when I'm on stream, so it's fine. But for the people that do, Facebook and YouTube are leaps and bounds ahead of dealing with DMCA stuff behind what Twitch is, right? Facebook even has a thing now where you can like basically test sample your live stream before going live just to even see if there's a potential issue. I think they tried to implement that, started last month. It might only have been to partner level people and they're going to be rolling it out. But that's the thing. They also have some people they've signed deals with, some studios, so you can just play those songs or whatever, right? YouTube recently implemented a thing where when you go to load your video, it checks to see if there's stuff that could be potentially, copyright or whatever. On Twitch, you have nothing. Like you literally, they were, and I talked about this on our podcast this past week actually, where they were celebrating on a stream a couple weeks ago that they made a tool to let you mass delete clips that may have been, in violation of a DMCA. Like the worst part about that is two. One, that they started having those issues last like July. The other is that there have already been independent people who have made tools that were better than what they made, and they did it for free, and they did it 4 or 5 months faster, right? So, and it's undoing a thing they were just celebrating like a year and a half, 2 years prior. So I don't know. Like it's such a weird situation that I'm rooting for Twitch because they're like the godfathers of game streaming or whatever. But at some point, it's like you got to get your stuff together. Let's see. I still have a few. I have about 13 more minutes. So if you got questions, keep them coming in. Didn't realize I was one of my girlfriend's accounts. Sorry about that. I'm the Emma question person. Oh, that's fine. I don't know. I was just talking to Emma. I don't know. Like, hey, I don't care if you're male or female. Question's still a question. How do you set up a consultation? I generally tell people hop over to my Discord and just send me a message there, or send me a message on Twitter. And what I like to do so far is I've really just done like kind of initial questions, figure out your plan. Are you already streaming or not? And then schedule 1 or 2 hours. I don't want to do more than that because if you don't find me useful or my input's not helping you or whatever, I don't want you to spend more than that. I also do it pretty cheap, honestly, by comparison to what real consultation is. Mostly because I'm not doing it to make money. I'm more doing it just to make it worth my time, because otherwise I literally have I've had as many as 9 recently, but usually 2 or 3 a week that just come looking for free information. And when I was taking time to help those people, a lot of them didn't even implement anything I took like 2-3 hours worth of time to talk to them about. So this way, they're more invested. I already know that when they're stepping into the conversation. And I know that more of the time I'm spending is going to go to use for them. So it's kind of just a middle ground to make that a lot easier and make me feel better walking away from it. Let's see. Rocket Bunny says, I'm into Magic like 2 months. I watched a video from you and liked the way you showed the deck. After that, I watched all your videos for the last 3 months. Man, I need a lot of yous. I need a lot of Magic Bunnies or Rocket Bunnies. But yeah, thanks so much for watching the videos. Surprisingly, I do have a lot of viewers from Germany. I believe Germany is the either the second or the third largest country that I have among my viewers. I mean, obviously like it's USA by a long shot, but then I think it's like Germany, Canada, I can't remember I was looking at the top 5 recently, but yeah, I was surprised how many people actually view from Germany. So welcome. Do I ever play Commander? Yes, I do. Matter of fact, I have somebody who's trying to get me on their stream again, I think, in a couple of weeks. I put it off because I was going to be moving. But yeah, I've done Commander on several streams. I've played some on my own. Some of the dudes over at One More Mana, I think we want to get together and play. I got on and played with Ellie of the Veil not long ago. I think Commander Quarters, I played with them. No, it wasn't Commander Quarters. EDH Rec. I played with those guys. So like, yeah, I play a fair amount, not a ton, but I play a fair amount. I've definitely played more during the pandemic than I played in the before times. I'd love to learn Commander. It looks fun and challenging. I don't think Commanders. I feel like if you do, and here's where I do differ with a bunch of people. Some people love playing competitive Commander. I am not a proponent of competitive Commander. Not saying it's wrong. You're welcome to play Magic however you want to play. For me personally, I just don't think Commander was designed for that in mind. What people don't know is Commander originally started by a group of judges who just came up with a weird format so they could enjoy playing Magic in the evenings or after dinner or whatever, because when they're going to these Grand Prix, Pro Tours, whatever, they were never getting to play Magic. So they came up with a thing to play with the other judges. And it was all super casual, whatever. And that's the only way I engage with the format. If I'm playing with people that are playing over the top decks or whatever, like I've literally just gotten up and walked away. You know, like it's just not a thing for me. So I think if you're doing it right, it's super fun. And I think your groups can have a good time. But I think you have to really decide what you want to get out of the format. Because I think you can be super happy and enjoy it. And you can also be super miserable. Both ends, if you're casual or competitive. I don't think one side gets exclusivity to being happy or miserable. I think it's just, where does your mentality reside for how you want to play the format? Oh yeah, it's basically what you're saying there. Casual or jank or whatever. Yeah. You weren't the first person I've heard say that from. Yeah, fair enough. Sergio says, "Hey, Power, would you reconsider streaming or making videos for the historic format? Changes are coming to the pool that seems mega spicy. Right now, no. Mostly because I still don't see my channel getting a lot of views from historic when I have done it. So that would be the first thing. The other is I would still, just because cards are coming to the format doesn't make the format better for me. And what I mean by that is so far, in the last 6 months, I basically played 3 days worth of Commander. And my experiences were the only word I have for it is bleh, right? That's it. If you want to call that a word, it's a sound, I guess, but bleh. Like, there wasn't, like, I mean, so many of the decks just felt like we just were ignoring, we were goldfishing, right? It didn't really matter what the other person was doing. It was just like, okay, I have to keep this one card because I know they have this combo or whatever. And that's it. And did I have the card or not? Okay, they comboed, they won, they didn't, I won, right? That's what a lot of the games felt like. It was like, oh, okay, well, did goblins get their dumb draw or no? Okay, cool. Or now it's like, did the person get double Thoughtseize early? Like, no, great, I might win, whatever. That's sort of what a lot of it felt like. There wasn't a lot of interactions or whatever to me. And that was kind of disappointing. Now, the new cards could change that. Maybe. I don't know. I also am a little concerned that the power level is going to be a bit too high on like 5% of the cards in the format, and they're going to be way above everything else. So that's also not potentially good. The reason the people are getting excited because some of those cards are in Modern. And the difference is Modern also includes like more than half of the cards that have ever existed in Magic. So you're having some of those cards come into an environment that includes something like 1/10 of Magic or whatever, right? Like, it's just not the same. So I'm very curious how that's going to look. Now, if I have enough people who are asking me about it and enough people were going to watch it, then like, sure. Like, I'll do almost any content if there's enough requests for it, truthfully. The only thing I will say is when I do decide to do it, do your part and, share it around, get extra eyeballs on it to encourage me to do it. And I say that about anybody's content, not just mine. Like, if a content creator is doing a thing you enjoy and you want to encourage more people to do it, then watch it, share it around, talk about it, like it, leave a comment, do all the stuff to encourage them to do it again. kind of like the whole strategy video thing, right? If you want more strategy videos, every time you see a strategy video on YouTube and you watch it, leave a comment for the creator, go share it. And if you think there's good information, put it on your Facebook, Twitter feed, whatever, right? That's a thing to encourage creators to do more of it. Because if you don't, they kind of go, man, this thing got like half as many views as my other stuff does. And nobody really said anything about it. And it got like 15 likes. I'll probably just do the other content. I think that happens with a lot of creators. Any particular MTG mechanic you really don't like or hate playing against? I think Outlast was probably the worst constructed mechanic Wizards ever made. Might honestly, like, it was an okay draft mechanic, but that to me is one of the worst mechanics. So like that one tops the list for me. And I would say anything that's basically a repackaging of another like similar ability. Like crap. What is the ability where you turn the card face down and then you morph and megamorph? Like it's just morph with more words. Why not just call it morph, right? So now things that care about morph or megamorph particularly possibly don't interact with each other. Or you could have just named them the same thing and then just had extra words on it. And then, people's decks could get more free cards or whatever to include. So stuff like that's always been kind of weird for me. So those would probably top my list. Would probably be the only things I would say there. But yeah, that's I don't hate playing historic like the decks. I can come up with some interesting things. I have another friend who has a channel that he does a bunch of historic stuff, Matumbo. Like he comes up with a bunch of cool decks. Like so it's possible. The problem with a lot of the channels though that are doing historic is like you get I think it's that a lot of the people who watch historic videos want competitive historic videos. They want you playing stuff that they can play on the ladder or whatever, right? But the problem is you just can't do that with a lot of good creative things in historic. If you watch a lot of the people's videos that are playing all these weird things in historic, they're playing just in the play queue. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's what they're doing because that's where you get to play against the other fun, weird, and interesting decks, right? You're not playing against the same big overpowered cards or whatever. You're not going up against goblins or the blue-white control or the weird the over the top combos. You're not going against, infinite strings of obliterators or Eldrazi, right? Like that's what you're going to get a lot of on the ladder, right? So if you can't deal with those things, then you can't play the fun creative deck, right? That's just not the way it is. So if that changes, if the new cards make that viable, then cool. I could see myself including some, but I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. But yeah, I'm gonna hang on for about 5 more minutes here. So any other questions, if you have them, get them in now. Mostly because I'm gonna take a break before I do my other content consultation with someone that I have scheduled at 5 local time. So yeah, but like this whole last year, it's been kind of crazy. Like I said, I had to pivot entirely, come up with a new thing, new plan, made lots of adjustments, learned a ton. Like if you go back and look at a video of mine from like February or March last year and look at stuff I put out in the last like 2 weeks, it's night and day. Like you can literally see how much I learned and how much I changed and how much I included in just a year, right? So that's the one thing that's sad is when I see some people whose content that's struggling, it still looks the same as it did a year ago. Some of those people I've said like, hey, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing with your downtime? When people say like, oh, well, I don't have the money to make things better. Like one, you don't need money. Like I literally had a lamp with a shower cap on it. I had a I guess you call it a throw blanket that I kept over my hand to keep like mouse clicks and stuff down and reduce noise reduction. Like so many people are making do with something like hell. I don't even have a real window cover right now when I have so much light coming in this window. I literally have a backdrop that I had from when I did commentary one day on a frame sitting in front of the window because I haven't bought expensive blackout curtains yet because I just got into the house, right? You can do so many things, right, that you don't have to have a lot of money for. The other is that when people say, well, I don't know how to do X, I also ask them, okay, what have you done to try to learn X, right? Because when you tell me you can't do a thing or you tell me you don't understand a thing or how a thing works or whatever, then I see you posting about, oh, well, I just played this new video game for 4 days or whatever to beat it, right? I binged watched this show that has 5 seasons or whatever over the last 3 weeks. Well, that's all time you could have put toward your stuff. Literally, I don't like. I'm behind on every major show. Like, there are shows that people have watched and are done that I have not even seen an episode of. I haven't played a AAA title video game in almost 2 years now, probably longer. But that's because a lot of my downtime has gone into making my content better. And I think that's the thing I could tell anybody. Like, the questions I have for people usually they'll start with, are you doing this for fun? Or are you trying to make an actual like income out of it? And maybe not your main income, maybe it's good side income, passive income, whatever your situation is. But you have to put the appropriate amount of time that's proportionate to what you want to get out of it. Right? You can't be upset that you're not getting, a few $100s a month when you're putting in almost zero effort to get there. Right? If all your downtime is being put towards something else, then that's on you and you can't be upset about it. Now, if somebody came to me and they're like, look, I'm doing this, I've researched this, I've watched these videos, I'm subscribed to this YouTube channel, like I watched this person stream, I do this, right? And you've got a list of things you're researching, trying, whatever. Okay, now let's have that real conversation and say, like, okay, let's talk and see like what's not working or why, what you're not applying. Maybe there's a certain thing that you've just applied wrong or whatever, and we can talk about that. But yeah, when I see the other people that are just not putting in the time or the effort and they're struggling, those are the ones I'm just like, I got nothing for you. I can't help you. Right. Like, people have come to me and been like, oh man, I saw that you got 10,000 subscribers in a year. Like, how'd you do it? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, here's a couple of basic things. Right. And they're already stunned at that and realizing how much extra work it is. And I'm like, okay, cool. This ain't for you. And that's okay. Like, not everything is for everybody. Believe me, there are some things I am super appreciative that other people do that I know I would never be able to do. Least favorite color to play in Magic? Right now it's blue, just because a lot of the blue cards don't do anything. Ice the shoulder, brother. I'm off to get it. Yeah, well, I will later tonight. I got to finish setting up another computer setup, and then I'll probably eat and unpack probably about 10 boxes, and then I'll be not even that many. I'll probably unpack like 5 tonight, and then I'll actually get some rest. All right, y'all. I think that's going to do it. As always, if you want to get any more questions or you want to interact, you know where to find me. You can find me during the days over on Facebook Gaming. You can come and join the stream, or actually in the stream, the Discord, if you want to come hang out there. And we have a really good community. We're over 350 people now, which is awesome. So you can come by. We talk about all types of stuff. People answer questions about deck ideas, new format stuff. Feel free to come by and participate. It's open to everybody. You don't have to be a subscriber, follower, anywhere, whatever, to make that work. Keep an eye out. I will be doing some more Strixhaven stuff here in the next couple days as we ramp up to the next set. I think also in the Discord, I'm going to make the conversation over the next couple days about what Strixhaven stuff do people want leading up to the set releasing. I think that's going to be a pretty big conversation as well for the next week. But yeah, it's just been fun to talk to everybody, meet some people, and answer questions. I think there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes in the game industry or with content that people don't talk a lot about. A lot of it's just about, how much money does somebody make or how many subscribers do you get? But there's a lot of nuance to everything, and I think it's cool to have those regularly. So if people like these type of streams, I'll probably hop on and do these once every few months if people just want kind of an update on things, or even just to be able to just ask questions that they're curious about. Hopefully, by the end of this week, the space behind me will have things on it, and we can maybe talk about those as talking points. But for now, I'm going to go take a break, set up for this consultation I got to do. By the way, if you're curious and you want to get content consultations, feel free to send me a message over on Twitter. My DMs are open, or you can hop into the Discord and send me a message privately there as well. Either way works, and we can talk about like what it is you need or that you're struggling with that hopefully I could help you out with. Again, I'm no expert. I've just learned a lot in a couple of years, and I at least know how people in the game industry think and how they consume at least a large chunk of their content, just from having been around it for 20 years at this point. But I will say, as always, whenever you're watching, wherever you're watching, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And please continue to watch the channel. Come on by, say hello. Remember to share, like, subscribe, comment on all the videos we put up. That's been helping out a whole lot, and I'm super appreciative for each and every one of you. But for now, I will catch you on the next one. that is all we have for you for now.